At one time, Pilottown was a thriving community, not just for the pilots, but there were many locals who lived there, fishermen and shrimpers and trappers. There was a school, there was a post office, there was a general store, there was actually a ballroom.
I kind of enjoy the history of this area, and Pilottown was a historical place, and it's gone. And in the history of the pilots, every time there was a hurricane, they moved on or rebuilt or changed their location to some degree and changed their operation.
The station itself, when it was originally built, was built to withstand hurricanes. It was tongue and groove, solid wood, wood floor, wood walls, wood ceilings. The whole thing was built to withstand hurricanes. It was built high enough at the time for storm surge so it wouldn't float away. Unfortunately, Katrina was strong enough to actually lift it up off its foundation and move it about 4 feet.
This was the Associated Branch Pilots, the Bar Pilots pilot station for over 150 years. It made it through Hurricane Camille, Hurricane Betsy, and it looks like Hurricane Katrina did it in. It looks pretty bad. I'm here with the adjusters, and it really looks bad. It's totally demolished. There's a lot of history here. 4 and 5 generations of pilots that have lived on this property possibly will not live here anymore, and we'll have a new station and get started in some other area, whether it's here or Venice or wherever. We'll just have to get started and move forward.
Generally, the pilots during hurricane season prepare their families and get their homes in some type of order in case there is an evacuation, because we generally wait to the last minute as long as we can and keep servicing the commercial traffic. Once they get home, then they'll make the decision whether or not they're going to leave their homes for safety, which in this case many pilots did. Some did stay, but some were as far as Memphis and Houston and Dallas and Mississippi. I mean, they were scattered all over the country.
I think the day after the storm, I was off duty, but I have a landline that wasn't down. And so a couple of pilots called me to see if I had heard anything. And that day we were pretty much just trying to find out if everybody was okay.
At least we had something at Southwest Pass that could get us back in operation. And at that point, shifted from thinking about damage to logistics and coordinating where are our pilots and crew, how are they safe, are their families safe, and then finding out who was available to come back to work, when they'd be able to come back to work, and when we would need to get them back to work.
Wednesday, we got information to get to our boats. We're in Chalmette Slip. Thursday, me and 3 other pilots and some of the crew got in cars and drove down to Bellchase, where Plaquemines Port Authority took us to Chalmette. The boats were fine. When we first came down the river, as we moved further and further south, there was more and more destruction. It was hard to understand what we were seeing at first, because it was just so out of the ordinary. The first place we pulled into was Venice, and to see that destruction, the first thing that goes through your mind is that nothing looks the same. There's no familiarity to anything. And then you started to see the piles of debris and the piles of the boats on the levee and things like that. And I started to think of what could do that. And then when we got to Pilottown, and then something that's very familiar, we saw that, then it became just, it was too overwhelming to, you didn't know where to start.
Southwest Pass Station did take a hard lick. Pilottown, for us, for our operations, was literally destroyed.
We could pilot as long as there were some very basic things, as long as we had the depth of the water, to the draft to get ships in. We had some sort of landmark that we could use to guide ourselves with, and We had the boats. The boats were critical to get us back and forth and in and out. And those simple things, I was pretty confident that we could move ships. And there was a need for it. So we're here and ready to roll.
What we relied on at the time before Katrina to pilot the navigational aids and jetties and wing dams and landmarks were all destroyed. They were gone.
Down at the end, the wing dams have sunk. The jetty ends sunk. We had no ranges, so you wouldn't really know if you were in the channel or not. You'd be relying on electronics.
If the pilots did not spend as much time in their apprenticeship and training and continuing education and handing down the art of piloting generation to generation to generation, then after a disaster like this, things would shut down, because there's no way that someone who is not trained and not familiar with the area could do that job.
When I brought in the USS Tortuga, they had all the electronics, all the information, but I told the officer of the deck that we're going to wait until this stick moves by that tree and then we'll turn, because that stick used to be a navigation aid and that tree was behind a navigation aid that was there before the storm.
We're averaging about 25 ships a day right now, so that's not bad. We were averaging about 30 or 32 before that, and we're doing about 25. So the whole Mississippi River region is picking up. The Port of New Orleans is up to about 25% of their capacity, and within a few months they should be up and running. So this is an important part for the United States also. Right now the pilots are staying at the lower end of the pass, at Southwest Pass, a new station that did survive, and also on a quarter barge here at Pilot Town. And hopefully when we get some other quarter barges to come in, we'll have full operation and we'll be going 24 hours a day.
We took care of our equipment to make sure it was safe for the storm. We got back as quick as we could, and we moved ships with no navigation aids. We did it effectively and we did it quickly, and it brought back a sense of normal operations.
They did what it took, and they knew they were going down there under those conditions to work. They didn't know the conditions they were going under, but they went. And in fact, the first group of pilots that went down volunteered to go down. They found me and Captain Reno and said, hey, we're ready to go back to work.
Anything that's normal after Katrina, a hot shower, a nice hot meal, anything like that is comforting. And to have the ships come in, the supplies get in, the things that need to get things back rolling and to get things back the way they are is good for everyone involved. And we worked hard to do that, and I think we performed quite well under very, very adverse conditions, and I'm very proud to be a bar pilot.